Now you might look at this and think that this is dental floss, but it's actually not. This is Loctite 55 pipe sealing cord. This Loctite 55 pipe sealing cord is similar to PTFE tape as it's for similar uses, so got the old roll of PTFE there. However, Loctite 55 personally I think is a lot better. Although slightly less versatile, it's a lot better at the key tasks. Now, much like PTFE tape, the Loctite 55 still does need to go on in the correct direction. So easiest way is get the thread facing you and put it on so it's going round clockwise. And you just want to make sure you're crossing the threads as you go. The Loctite 55, it should be very random. You don't want to be just putting it uniform in the threads. You want to be making sure that you're going across the threads. So keep it very random, and then once you've done your 6 to 8 turns, then you're good. And much like dental floss, it's got a little cut off, and there you can just pull the cord through and just cut it off. This does have some kind of coating on the cord, but it's good for drinking water, so I'm sure it's nothing to worry about having on your fingers. Now you've got your 1/2 inch back plate, and this one is a solder fitting, so there's no compression fitting on the end there. The one I've got mounted to the surface here is a compression fitting type, and this is the one I'm going to use for this purpose. So we're just gonna twist the tap into this now. Right, you're getting quite a lot of resistance quite quickly. The Loctite 55 is very good at giving you a really decent seal, so it's going to take some effort to get this in. So here I've got the tap in, done it up as tight as I can by hand. So now I want to take a spanner to just tighten up the rest. And one of the things with this Loctite is that you can actually back it off slightly. So if you want to get something perfectly aligned, like this tap for example, you can just back it off slightly and just undo it a little bit. So I've just untwisted that a little bit just to get it straight, so that when it's on the wall, this lines up to the pipe underneath. Whereas if you're using PTFE tape, you actually can't be backing it off slightly because you end up breaking the seal of the PTFE tape. Whereas the Loctite, you can back it off slightly. So the most common places are this outdoor tap that I'm using here, or where you've got a fixed shower arm. So you've got something like this buried in the wall and you're just twisting shower outlet into it. And that's one that you definitely want to have straight. So you often do find yourself having to back it off slightly, and you're much safer with the Loctite 55, especially when it's buried in a wall like that. So if you have PTFE tape and you've broken the seal a little bit, when you backed it off, you might not know that you've got a very slow drip in the wall until you've got huge problems. Whereas the Loctite 55 pipe cord is not going to have that problem. Now let's start undoing this to see what the cord looks like. And you can see here the cord, it hasn't been pushed up the thread like you get with PTFE tape. That's gone this dark colour, I'm not sure why that is, must be reacting with the brass. And unlike PTFE tape, it's quite easy to pull it off, an old thread. It just comes off in big bits, whereas PTFE tape, you have a real nightmare and you're having to get a Stanley knife to scratch it out, or worse comes to worse, you end up having to use a wire brush. But quite easily just there, I've managed to get all that off. Quick wipe up, and that's pretty much good as new. So now we're going to do the same just to demo what the PTFE tape would be like. One of the most common mistakes with PTFE tape is not putting it on the right way. So again, you want to get your fitting so you're looking at the thread and put it on so it's clockwise. And when you put it on, what you want to be doing is you want to keep this under tension the whole time. So if you have it like this, you're trying to undo it, you end up with more and more, you end up with longer and longer pieces as you go round. Whereas actually if you hold it the other way, so you're keeping it under tension the whole time, means you don't end up with loads and loads, you can just slowly let it out as you need it. Now PTFE tape is generally recommended that you do about 7 turns for a 1/2 inch fitting like this. Doing a little bit more isn't going to cause a problem, it might just make it a little bit harder to do up. That will do for this. And now it means that when you wind it up, you're not going to be pushing the wrong direction, because if you put the PTFE tape on the wrong way, this will all just start to unravel as you're putting it in the thread. So doing it this direction, easiest way, remember, look at it clockwise. You just do that up. Now this is going in a lot more easily than with the Loctite, because you're not getting as good a seal. Now you can see I've done this all the way up really quite easily, and you can see now the tap isn't aligned, so we'd end up having to back it off. Potentially, we haven't got a great seal there, so you end up having to take the whole thing off and put more PTFE tape on. But now if I undo this, you can see the PTFE tape is all just buried in the threads, but sometimes it does get pushed up on a tight thread, and you don't know that you've actually got a really good seal because you can't see, whereas the Loctite never does. And this is much harder to get off, so you're having to
pull this off, it all falls apart.
Now the only thing that, in my opinion, PTFE tape is good for, that your Loctite 55 isn't so good for, is when you've got a leaking compression joint and you want to fix that. So one of the ways you can fix it is taking a little bit of PTFE tape and wrapping it around the leaking olive and then tightening back up the compression joint, and it just gives the joint a bit more to compress onto rather than just over tightening the nut onto the olive. But that's something that the Loctite 55 can't do. But other than that, for any threaded fittings, the Loctite 55 is infinitely better. If you enjoyed this video and you're interested in learning more about compression fittings and how you can fix them with PTFE tape, I've got another video on compression fitting mistakes linked here.